Hi and welcome to the Adobe Workshop, and in this lesson we're going to be creating a style page. And a style page is something you might show a client if you were doing maybe an advert, or you're doing an introduction maybe to a program they're doing in Adobe After Effects. And it gives the client a chance to say, yep, I really like the colours you've used, no I don't like the colours you've used, you know, what they like about the fonts and all the sorts of things that they might agree with or disagree with, without you having to go ahead and create the final product and then finding they don't like it. So for those of you who missed this lesson when I actually taught it in college, this lesson is going to use a lot of filters, it's going to use a lot of layer properties, we're going to be adjusting the opacity, we're going to be creating a 3D text effect. And for those of you who did watch this lesson when I did it in class and went along with me, there's a lot to take in, so it's going to give you another chance to remember some of the techniques again. But even if you remember one or two of these techniques, it's going to improve your Adobe Photoshop skills dramatically. So let's have a quick look at the style page that we're going to be creating. And here we go, the Storm Tracker 7 logo, okay? Every time I do this I seem to call it something else, but you can call it whatever you want as well, it doesn't really matter. But it's kind of an Americanized weather forecast channel logo. As you can see there, we've got the 3D text going on, we've got lightning, we've got cloud effects, we've got an opaque, transparent sort of Storm Tracker logo going across the background you can just about see. And we've got, yep, the rain. So let's go ahead and try and create this, okay? So I'm going to close that down and go to File, New. And mine's already selected, but we can go to a PAL 720 by 576 with guides. Now I think it's important for me to say I'm using Adobe Photoshop CS 2.0. There are some differences between CS and CS 1.5 and CS 2.0. One of the main differences I've noticed is the fact that I can actually select more than one layer and move them all at once in CS 2.0, and I can't seem to do that in 1.5. So for the use of this exercise, I'm going to not move my layers in a CS 2.0 manner. I'll do them how I would do it in 1.5. Okay, so here's my background, which I'm going to work on. Now, useful panels you should have up before you start, and you can get these by going to Window and selecting them. I always have the navigator up. It allows me to zoom in and out very, very quickly. You should have your layers up. Okay, you can get that from here, Windows, Layers, or F7 for the shortcut. And down here I like to have my history in case I make a mistake and I want to go back to a certain point. Okay, so I'll have all those up, put them down the side here. And the first thing I'm going to do is get my paint bucket tool. Now, in case you've got the gradient tool up, you might have the gradient tool up. What you do is, when I switch between my tools on the side, I have to hold down and then select which tool I'm going to use. For this one I'm going to use the paint bucket tool, so I hold down and select the paint bucket tool. And I need black in the foreground and white in the background. And you can do this if you've got black and white up there already, otherwise you click on it and you can select your colours, okay? If you are selecting your colour black, make sure you select it from the bottom right hand side, because it's slightly grayer over to the left hand side and you don't want to make that mistake. So you want the deep jet black from the bottom right hand side, okay that? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fill the area with that colour. Okay, so I've got a black background. Now I need to switch and toggle the foreground and background colours, so the white's now the foreground, black's now the background, and create a new layer. Okay, and we're going to create some clouds. So, filter, clouds. Okay? Now I press Ctrl and T, which is a shortcut for transform, and I can hold down Ctrl again, and you can see my arrow is turning into a smaller grey arrow, and I can grab the side and I can free transform it and actually distort the image. And I'm going to create this trapezium type shape. I let go of Control and now I can just pull out the middles, and there I go, I've got some clouds. Okay, next I need to do is I need to get rid of this hard line here, so I'm going to create a layer mask, and the layer mask will mask out the white area. Okay, now what I do is I then go to my paint bucket tool and get the gradient tool, and I click and hold down and it's going to get rid of this hard edge we've created. So if I just get it just right, that looks okay to me. Make sure you're on the right gradient as well, okay? And sometimes when you start up from an old task, your gradient might be selected as a different gradient, so you've got to be on this linear gradient and pull down like I did, okay? Now I need to copy this layer again. So what I can do is I can do this two ways. I can either click, hold and drag it onto the new layer, and that will create me a copy, or if I press Ctrl and Z to go back, I can just press Ctrl and J to duplicate that layer. With that layer duplicated, I go to my layer properties here and give it an overlay. And if I do that by just going to there, you can see the layer properties, and it brings up all these different other layer properties I can apply. Ctrl J again to duplicate it, and Ctrl J again to duplicate it again. We've got what seems to be some pretty ominous clouds coming out. Okay, so right, the next thing I want to do is colour these clouds. So I create a new layer, I select my foreground colour, and I select a kind of a blandish, not too vibrant blue. The reason for this is, if you look over here where my mouse is at the moment, next to the cancel, if I go too close towards the green, I get this warning symbol. That means it's not a safe colour for PAL. And if I go towards the blue here, it's not safe either. So it's a very, very, very bland blue, really. I OK that, and I get my paint bucket tool, and I just put it over so it fills my screen on that new layer. And then finally, I'll apply an overlay to that, and there we go. I've got my blue clouds. Okay. Right. The next thing I want to do is create thunder, the lightning. So I create myself a new layer. I need black and white as my foreground and background colours here. There's a bit of a shortcut here. Default foreground and background colours, and then toggle it so the white is the foreground, black is the background. Go to filter, clouds, and there's my clouds again. Okay. So what I need to do now is go to filter again, render difference clouds. Okay. And now I go to image, adjustments and levels, and the levels will affect the amount of white, black and grey within that layer, and I just bring the white right up, and you can see it already starting to create the lightning effect. Okay, so there we go, we've got the sort of lightning effect coming on there. Okay, that, and then image, adjustments, invert it. Okay, so you can see the lightning is already starting to take shape. Next, I go to image, adjustments, hue and saturation, and I've got to make sure that colorized is ticked. So I tick colorized, and you can create any color you want for yours, but I'm going for the bluish type feel, so I'm going to go for around about 200 and saturate it, the amount of the color, about, yeah, there, about 42. Okay. So that's the lightning. Now I get the Lasso Tool, and I'm going to take out the bits I don't want. So I just lasso around them, and then if you press Ctrl and D, it'll fill it with the background color, which is black in my case. If your project starts to look patchy at any point, it's because you haven't used a deep black. Okay, so you must make sure you have got that deep black selected. I'm just going around taking out the bits I don't want. Okay, there's a few bits around here. Select, deselect. Okay, that's okay. I might stretch it out just a tiny little bit so that goes right off the screen. Control T. And then I can just grab the edge. There we go. Okay, so that's the lightning. Now let me put that on by creating a screen effect, which will screen out all the black. And there we go. There's the lightning effect.